You're welcome to The Maze on ASO Television. I am Rosemary UKOKO-TEGA. The Maze is a weekly update on activities of the National Assembly. It comes your way at this time, that is 8 p.m. every Friday. Today's edition in brief. Policy briefs at the House by heads of financial institutions. House resolutions on plaguing insecurity in nation's capital. Stay with us for these and more on DSTV 392, StarTimes TV 127, Free TV 507, UHF Band 38. Also find all editions of The Maze on ASO Radio and Television YouTube channel. Like our page and please subscribe.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, StarTimes Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
You're watching The Maze on ASO Television, down to legislative business. At resumed plenary on Tuesday, the House continued with its sectorial debate with another set of heads of federal government agencies. Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, that's the CBN, Olayemi Cardoso, Minister of Finance Wale Edun, his counterpart in the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, and the Chairman Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Zak Adedeji, briefed lawmakers on the state of Nigeria's economy. Issues surrounding the free fall of Naira and general living standard were major dominants in the separate speeches of the government's officials. The CBN governor specifically blamed the free fall of Naira on the around $40 billion spent by Nigerians on foreign education and medical tourism in the last 10 years. We now take them one after the other, even as they are assured of a soon end to all economic crisis.
For 2023, the target for the service was set at 10 trillion. From the national budget and from the Ministry of Finance. Through the efforts of them all and all of us here, we'll achieve 12.3 trillion. And this is not in isolation. This comes about because of the bold decision taken by Mr. President by rectifying the distortion in our economic parameters, the removal of subsidy, and then the wonderful work also being led by Central Bank in the unification of the rate. This has serious impact in the last 7 months of our collection because the rates that we use and also the wastage, so to say, from subsidy payment we were able to curtail that. So we have overperformance from both the VAT collection and company income taxes, because of most especially those that are dollar-based. We have challenges in collection from our oil production, from oil taxes, and this is in connection with the low production compared to what we planned for in the budget. All other type of taxes did well, most especially education tax, because we over that one by more than 290% that we used to do, that we overperform in education tax that we've collected. So this is the way we've done in the last 1 year, and as a result of that, we have the target for this year, based on the approved budget, to collect 19.2 trillion, which is 7.2 trillion more than what we actually collected this year. And given this economic condition and with the promise of Mr. President that we are not going to introduce additional tax, we are not going to increase any tax, considering the situation and welfare of our people, that what we need to do is to re-strategize within to make sure that we bring more people into tax net. So without increasing the tax rate, that will be able to meet the targets. And that is what has led to us restructuring the way we want to do it today in federal land revenue.
I want to emphasize that we are now at a turning point, and the bold reforms underway across different segments of the economy, though initially challenging, are aimed at addressing these challenges sustainably. And really, I would like to emphasize the word sustainably. I'm confident that positive outcomes are already emerging and will become more apparent in the near future. The dedicated and relentless efforts being made are certain to bring about significant and positive changes for our economy. On that note, distinguished members, I'm happy to inform you that as at yesterday, the volume of transactions on our market was over $800 million. This is the first time in many years that it has achieved this level. Notably, recent reports from international rating agencies such as Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and commendations from multilateral banks like World Bank reflect this positive trajectory, with upgrades to Nigeria's rating from stable to positive. These reports acknowledge the potential reversal of the deterioration in the country's fiscal and external position due to the authorities' reform efforts. While recognizing the painful adjustments, these all point to a direction that will unlock much-needed growth and development for our economy in the medium to long term. Honorable members, I acknowledge that despite these commendations, the concerns regarding the cost of living and currency rates remain. Indeed, this is the major topic of concern in our villages, our towns, and our cities. The urgency of the matter is not lost on us at the Central Bank, and I really want to assure you that we're working tirelessly with colleagues from across government, including with the leadership of this House, to bring lasting solutions.
Just for emphasis, I will like to quote from the mandate of the ministry that among our functions, we are to determine how best the fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, can achieve the major objectives of optimal development, and suggest amendments that may be required from time to time. Most people do not realize that the discharge of the fundamental objectives reside in the national planning function. I will use this opportunity to appeal. The National Assembly, particularly the respected House of Reps, is rightfully worried about complaints about cost of living. And one of the quickest wins, and this challenge does not come unanticipated. We reckon with global challenges that are impacting us domestically, and we reckon with the transitional nature of some of the measures that we have taken. And we know that they will have some impacts. But there are compensatory mechanisms. One of it is to support domestic production, particularly one that we are most familiar with, 36 states of Nigeria plus FCT. Agricultural production is a major component, and as well as other activities for which infrastructure, for which funding has been generously provided in the budget. But in implementing this, we need more cooperation, particularly from the National Assembly members.
Right from the onset, Mr. President committed to making sure that the poorest and the most vulnerable were not left behind. And that's why, as we heard earlier from the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, the palliatives, the interventions have been rolled out. But let us examine exactly where we are today after a series of economic reforms and intervention measures. And I will come back to the all-important issue of helping Nigerians with the cost of living. But first of all, oil production. Mr. President made a commitment to confront, to engage, and indeed to use state power to subdue the vested interests that had resulted in oil production and sales going down to as little as 1.25 million barrels per day. Where are we now as a result of those interventions in terms of security and collaboration and cooperation across all the stakeholders in that industry? We are at 1.65 barrels per day and rising. And that is the quickest way to give relief. The governor of Central Bank just said now that in 2011, we were virtually at $100 billion a year from oil sales. So we can see the adjustment that has had to be made. Now we are on the way back up. 1.65 million barrels per day and rising. In agriculture, if we need to stabilize the economy, two things need to happen. Inflation needs to be tackled. And I think I will just end by saying that let us be confident, let us be calm, let us be assured that Nigeria has turned the corner in terms of its economic management, and the way forward is up. And at the same time, the poor and the vulnerable will be assisted at every turn.
Deputy Speaker of the House, Benjamin Kalu, presided over the plenary. Key points in his remarks before commencement of the debate are importance of engagement with finance sector stakeholders, proper oversight by the legislature, urgent tackling of economic, fiscal and revenue challenges facing Nigeria, among others.
Today marks another significant chapter in the life of the 10th Assembly. As we gather in this sectorial debate with the Central Bank Governor, the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, and the Minister of Finance, it is imperative to recognize the urgency and importance of the agenda before us. We must all confront the stark reality of the economic, fiscal, and revenue challenges that our beloved nation, Nigeria, is currently facing. In a world of complexities and uncertainties, the path to fiscal integrity is not just a choice, but a necessity. It is the bedrock upon which the trust between the government and its people is built, and the foundation that supports the robust architecture of our nation or national economy. Fiscal integrity ensures transparency, accountability, and the prudent management of our nation's resources. It is our duty and responsibility to safeguard this, not just for the present generation, but for the future ones that will inherit the outcomes of our decisions today. Moreover, the essence of synergy cannot be overstated in our quest for economic stability and growth. The collaborative spirit that we foster within this hallowed chamber attests to the collective will and dedication of our House to steer our nation towards a brighter, more prosperous future. In the face of global economic shift and domestic challenges, it is clear that robust reform measures are not just beneficial but imperative. We are at a pivotal moment where the decisions we make and the policies we implement will impact the lives of millions of Nigerians. The reform we envisage should not only address the immediate needs, but also lay a foundation that is resilient with a dynamic framework that can adapt to future challenges and opportunities. These measures should stimulate growth. These measures should foster innovation. These measures should uplift the life of every Nigerian.
The House, same day, stressed the need for the federal government to urgently reduce cost of living among Nigerians. The House was adopting a motion of urgent public importance as moved by a member, Mr. Ibrahim Ayokunle Isiaka. Other lawmakers made contributions to the motion.
Notes the cost of living, rising cost of living in Nigeria, which has been a pressing issue for many citizens around the world. Nigeria not in isolation. And the situation has only worsened in recent times. The impact it has on individuals and families and the urgent need for government intervention to bring down the cost of living as currently going on in Nigeria. Convinced that the various radical policies and approaches of the current federal government are not only necessary, but compulsory to propel the nation into the new era of robust economy, improved standard of living, and emergence of Nigeria as the economic destination of the world. But the caveat, the gestation period for this policy of the government is rather coming with some hardship. Truly, incisions of a tribal mark is associated with pains, and only when it heals that the beauty radiates. It's nice and good for people to want to eat a well-dried dog. But before the dog dries, what are people going to eat? Therefore, it's obvious that even the fowl that's perching on the rope now is shaking, while the rope itself is shaking. Both the government that is trying all its efforts to put economy back on foot are worried, and the citizens too are currently worried. The House is further worried that alongside human toll, the financial costs are also escalating on energy and hurting the growth of the economy. The crisis is potentially fueling instability, as witnessed in some parts of the country yesterday, specifically in Minna, Niger State. Strong and swift policy action is needed to mitigate the food crisis, cost of standard living, and human suffering. The House equally appealed and noted with disdain the arbitrariness in how marketers are putting costs. There is no way to explain, and with no economic indices or reasoning, that a bag of cement that cost only 5,400 just last week is approaching 7,000 naira today. Meanwhile, all the raw materials for production of cement are available in this country. What economic justification? Rather than that, people are latching at the foreign exchange to inflict pains hardship on fellow citizens without any recourse or any collaboration and any justification for the rising in the foreign exchange. In the light of the foregoing, the House, as the House of the People of Nigeria, herefrom resolves appeal, 1, to the federal government and all critical stakeholders, 2, immediately open up the National Food Reserve and complement by exploring the importation of grains, poultry products, meats, beverages, healthcare and pharmaceutical products from the top exporting countries in the world as a short-term measure while the government is fixing other areas of the economy. Number 2, the House urged the federal government to increase food production and improve distribution, including through ensuring adequate access to fertilizers and diversification. The House is urging the federal government to increase trade financing and reinforcing supply chains as a vital tool to addressing the current cost of living prices and the shocks currently being experienced. The House is urging the federal government to equally embark upon high-impact measures, such as investing in new crop varieties, improving water management, and information dissemination across to the citizens from time to time to keep them abreast of the happenings in the polity. The House further appealed, a very special one in this instance, to the manufacturers, producers, the middlemen, the sellers of goods and services, and all other relevant stakeholders to temper justice with mercy and to be very realistic in the aggressive manners at which they are increasing astronomical prices on goods and services, taking advantage of the situation at hand, especially items that are not dependent and goods that are not dependent on foreign exchange. There is no correlation at all for putting the dollars atop how our marketers should sell products that are produced and manufactured locally. The House further urges the leadership of the House of Representatives to begin in earnest the planned summit with the theme on security and economic development. Mr. Speaker, I so abridged and I so submit. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and distinguished honorable members.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, permit me to start commending the mover of the motion. Mr. Speaker, there is always pain and discomfort in saying the truth when and wherever the need arises. In other words, the truth that sets men free is mostly the truth that men prefer not to hear. Sir, if we are comfortable in our comfort zone, we should understand that substantial part of our constituency are sitting on a time bomb. Sir, I want you to go to the creek. I want you to go to far north, and I want you to go to far southwest. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you that people are not happy. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you that people are hungry. Mr. Speaker, there must be drastic measures to bring back our country, Nigeria.
Although we are aware, but I want to read Section 14 of the Constitution for purposes of emphasis with your leave, sir. Section 14(2). Constitution, Section 14.
Constitution, Section 14.
Subsection 2. It is hereby accordingly declared, A, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this Constitution derives all its powers and authority. B, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, with what we are facing in Nigeria today, truly can we say that the welfare of the people is being taken care of, which is the primary purpose of government. And I think that that is what our colleague has drawn our attention to. A lot needs to be done. As a government, we derive our sovereignty from the people, but the same people who gave us that sovereignty are impoverished. They are living in poverty. They are living in penury. The people are sad. The country is not happy. And the primary purpose of government, including all of us here sitting, is to bring joy and happiness to Nigerians.
Still on the workings of the economy, a lawmaker from Lagos State, Babajimi Benson, moved a motion of urgent national importance on the effect of fluctuating dollar rate. The lawmaker said the motion aims to exercise the constitutional powers of the House to compel compliance by banks with the CBN directives. The lawmaker to the mic.
The House notes that the Central Bank of Nigeria is saddled with the responsibility of regulating the monetary policies of the country as provided by the CBN Act. The House also notes that in the performance of this duty, the CBN is empowered to make regulations and give directives for commercial banks and certain financial institutions to implement. Further note that Section H4 and 5 of the CBN Act requires that the CBN governor is expected to brief the relevant committees of the National Assembly during the semi-annual hearings, as well as provide periodic reports on the performance of the economy to the National Assembly. The House is concerned that there has been a steady rise in the rate of the dollar in comparison to the naira. It rose to 1,500 or thereabout last week. The House is also concerned that this astronomical rise has been caused by diverse market forces and certain economic policies adopted by the government, including the liberalization of the dollar. The House is further concerned that the commercial banks and certain financial institutions in Nigeria usually hold back a large part of foreign exchange that they obtain either through purchase, borrowing, or allocation from the CBN, rather than lending same to their customers with a view to selling it when the exchange rate is high. The House is worried that this speculative activity by commercial banks and certain financial institutions has further exacerbated the harsh economic situation in the country and has led to difficulty by legitimate businesses to obtain foreign exchange for their business transactions. Aware that the Central Bank of Nigeria has intervened by introducing new monetary policies to check the rise in the rate of the dollar, among which are the next net open position limits and holding excess long foreign exchange. The House is also aware that commercial banks and certain financial institutions are reluctant to implement the monetary measures put in place by the Apex Bank to check this unwholesome practice by banks and other institutions in the country. The House is concerned that unless drastic legislative measures are taken to enforce the implementation of these directives, the country will continue to experience dire economic hardship as a result of continuous rise in foreign exchange rates. The House resolves to mandate the House committees on banking regulations and banking institutions to conduct an investigative hearing on the non-compliance by banks and financial institutions with the CBN directives on the net open position limits. Also mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure full implementation. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
A number of other issues resurfaced as motions and bills at both the House and the Senate. Let's have a few of those on the floor of the House before checking the other paper from the Senate. Resolutions in a motion of urgent national importance on the insecurity in the nation's capital were adopted by lawmakers. The motion is standing in the name of a lawmaker from Anambra State, Mr. Dominic Okafor. Let's have the lawmaker present his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Knows that the Federal Capital Territory is and remains the seat of federal government, from where national policies are formulated, headquarters of federal government agencies are domiciled, international edifices are located, majority of foreigners and visitors reside. Aware that the federal government of nearby Nasarawa State has announced plans to install security cameras across their state to cope with the distressing insecurity challenges in the state, which ought to be replicated in Abuja, being the center of the nation and should be the safest place in the country. Very worried that the level of insecurity revving the center of unity in recent times is, to say the least, very disappointing and unbefitting of a federal capital city, where there are escalating cases of one chance, armed robberies, banditry, and rampant kidnapping and killings. Concerned that the last administration, through the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, compulsorily registered and linked national identification numbers, NIN, with telephone numbers of Nigerians, and further linked same with various bank accounts, with the main purpose of curbing the rising spate of insecurity in the country. Disturbed that since the compulsory registration of and linking of national identification numbers, NIN, by the federal government, there has never been a time it was deployed to tackle or address the pressing and scary state of insecurity in the Federal Capital Territory or the nation at large. Further worried that since criminal elements in and around the Federal Capital Territory are speedily evolving from the norm to advanced techniques of criminality, the security agencies of government ought to urgently move to digitalize their operations to return the Federal Capital Territory to its safest haven in the country with the use of drones, closed-circuit television, CCTV, and other modern sophisticated security gadgets. Cognizant that restructuring the nation economically and politically, as is obtainable in most Western economies, is the next most appropriate step the federal government of Nigeria should go in a bid to addressing the teething economic, political, and security concerns of Nigerians. Resolves: 1. Invite the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, the National Security Advisor, and heads of all security agencies for an emergency security briefing and strategy. 2. Mandate the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory to install security cameras in and around the FCT and its environs. Also, to install other security gadgets and equip security personnel with modern security equipment to combat the rising and frightening insecurity within the territory and its environs, including the use of drones. 3rd, mandate heads of all security agencies to urgently collaborate among themselves, train and set up special units with their formations to track and clamp down on the criminal elements within and around the territory. 4th, mandate the security agency to immediately commence the use of the registered national identification number, NIN, in their technology to trace and curb insecurity across the country. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
The House also, through another motion, unveiled plans to investigate various public-private partnership (PPP) programs and concession agreements approved by successful administrations. The motion, standing in the name of Mr. Saidu Abdullahi from Niger State, is another way of saving the country's dwindling economy. Mr. Saidu now on the floor.
The House notes the persistent dwindling revenues accruing to the federal account and the enormous deficit in infrastructural development with attendant consequences on budget implementation and the economy due to the nation's dependence. Also notes the participation of the private sector in the infrastructural development and management of infrastructure around the globe, ranging from roads, railways, airports, housing, power generation, distribution, and marketing, and its enormous contribution to economic development, growth, and prosperity. Further note the establishment of the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, ICRC, charged with the responsibility of formulating policies, discussions, agreements, and supervisions of all public-private partnerships and concession programs, a one-stop shop for concession projects. Aware that the agency, in collaboration with government departments, has initiated several PPPs and concession programs, some of which are still in process, while others have not yielded positive results. Also aware that many investors participated in or indicated interest,
please, can I see?
Or indicated interest in most of the programs, while some secure provisional fundings but cannot commence due to insufficient coordination between agencies and ICRC management in actualizing, concluding, and executing the agreement. Now the prayers. The House therefore resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate and assess the performance of public-private partnership programs and concession agreements, recommend ways to improve the nation's infrastructural development, and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Bordered by State of the Nation, Speaker Tajuddin Abbas convened a World News Conference. This held after the plenary on Thursday. We have here excerpts of that.
It is my profound honor to address this World Press Conference dedicated to addressing some of the most pressing national issues we face. As representative of the Nigerian people, we cannot pay lip service to the plight of the same individuals who elected us into office to protect their interests. It is our resolve to see that Nigerians, wherever they are, live their normal lives in peace and relative ease. We are acutely aware of the rising security challenges affecting different parts of the country. As elected representatives, we acknowledge the pain and suffering of every family that has been a victim of brutal crimes and needless violence. Let it be known that your cries have not fallen on deaf ears, and your tears have not gone unforeseen. We stand in solidarity with every Nigerian affected and commit to deploy robust legislative measures to empower our security agencies, ensure justice, and restore peace and order in our communities. The President and Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to improving the security situation and enhancing the capability of the armed forces. On Tuesday this week, I attended the induction ceremony of the T-129 attack helicopter and the King Air 360I aircraft in our esteemed Air Force. The acquisition of these state-of-the-art aircrafts clearly indicates the government's dedication to investing in the security infrastructure of our nation. It reflects a proactive stance in adapting to the dynamic challenges of modern warfare and a commitment to providing our armed forces with the best tools to defend Nigeria and our people. You may recall, on November 8, 2023, the President signed the 2.176 trillion Supplementary Appropriation Act to strengthen Nigeria's security architecture and address Nigeria's critical infrastructure deficit. Among other considerations, this investment in the face of global economic downturn and budgetary constraints attests to the government's determination to end insecurity in Nigeria. While recognizing and commending the patriotic and courageous efforts of our security agencies, we must have the courage to effect changes where necessary. We are aware of the economic challenges facing our constituents across Nigeria. Of particular concern to the House is the high inflation rates, particularly the rate of food inflation. As you are all aware, various factors including insecurity, economic downturns, and climate change-induced disruptions have exacerbated this crisis. I wish to commend the rapid and decisive response of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to the issue of food security. The 2023 supplementary budget provided a 200 billion naira palliative package, mainly for grains, seeds, agricultural inputs, and equipment for farmers. This momentum has been sustained in the 2024 budget, which has significantly improved the budgetary allocations to all critical sectors of the economy, especially defense, healthcare, education, and infrastructure. We in the National Assembly have supported and will continue to support the government's efforts in finding effective solutions to these challenges. As we navigate through these tumultuous times, the importance of unity and constructive engagement cannot be overstated. The synergy between three arms of government, executive, legislative, and judiciary, is paramount. We must function not as an isolated entities, but as a cohesive unit with a common goal, a common vision: the welfare and progress of our dear country. As declared in Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. This cannot be achieved by one arm of government alone, but by all of us working together for the common good. In any vibrant democracy, the relationship between citizens and their government is symbiotic, characterized by active engagement, mutual trust, and shared accountability. Constructive citizen-government engagement is the cornerstone of democratic governance, facilitating transparency, responsiveness, and inclusive decision-making. As we mature in our democracy, it is imperative to cultivate a culture of meaningful interaction and collaboration between citizens and government institutions. For these reasons, I call on every citizen to engage in positive and constructive criticism. Your voices and opinions are invaluable, providing the compass that guides our actions and policies. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen of the press, as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, my colleagues and I invite Nigerians to engage critically with us on important national issues. In fact, we encourage and welcome criticisms, but they must be constructive and targeted at building national unity and cohesion and advancing development. However, while we encourage freedom of expression and constructive dialogue, we must also be wary of the dangers of fake news and campaigns of slander and defamation, especially against the president and senior government officials. Ladies and gentlemen, in the face of such hardship, it is natural to feel a sense of despair and frustration. The impact of the challenges I have identified above is felt in every home, on every street, and in the hearts of every Nigerian. Yet it is precisely in times like these that our true strength as a nation is revealed. Our resilience, unity, and indomitable spirit have seen us through difficult times before, and I have no doubt that these qualities will carry us through again and again. To those affected by the scourge of insecurity, I want you to know that your government hears you loud and clear. We are taking decisive steps to address the root causes of this menace, deploying both military and diplomatic resources to ensure that the safety and security of all Nigerians. It is a complex challenge, one that requires patience and a time to resolve, but I assure you that we are making progress in this regard. On the economic front, we are equally committed to reversing the downturn and setting our country back on a path of sustainable growth. The policies of the Tinubu-led government are designed to stimulate the economy, encourage investment, and create jobs. We understand the urgency of the situation and are working tirelessly to alleviate the hardships many of you are experiencing. The issue of food shortages is particularly close to my heart. Food security is fundamental to national security. We are implementing comprehensive strategies to boost agricultural production, improve supply chains, and ensure that affordable food is accessible to everyone, regardless of where they live. I ask for your patience as these measures take time to bear fruits, especially of the magnitude we are aiming for. It does not happen overnight. It requires time, effort, and most importantly, the support of every Nigerian. Each of us has a role to play in this journey towards a more secure, prosperous, and food-secure Nigeria. Whether you are a farmer, a business owner, a teacher, a student, your contribution matters at this time. Together, we can overcome these challenges and build a brighter future for our beloved country. As your speaker, I am filled with renewed hope for what we can achieve together and collectively.
From the Red Chamber, chunk of proceedings held behind closed doors. However, a supposed session to address the state of security and general economy failed to hold due to absence of National Security Advisor NSA, Nuhu Ribadu, Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa, and others. President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, was quite displeased with the development. His remarks.
Welcome the Chief of Army Staff, General T.A. Lagbaja, to the hallowed chamber of the Senate, and also welcome Admiral Ogala, the Chief of Naval Staff, to the hallowed chamber of the Senate, and we also welcome Air Marshal Abubakar to the hallowed chamber of the Senate, and also our dear brother, Y.M. Bichi, DGSS, to the hallowed chamber of the Senate, and welcome also our brother, Kayode Ebetukun, the Inspector General of Police, who was here earlier, about 2 hours ago, to the hallowed chamber of the Senate. Well, the reason for the invitation is obvious to all. We had a motion here in the Senate bordering on the recent upsurge of insecurity in parts of the country, banditry, kidnappings, and in some places, killings. And even after kidnappers have received ransom, they will still go ahead and kill the victims. And we also receive reports that even security personnel have lost their lives in the course of struggling and fighting to bring the situation under control. We had motions from our colleagues on what was going on in some places in Okokolo, Abuja, Ochuto area communities in Agatu local government of Benue State. We had reports and motions on what was going on in Taraba State. We also had motions on some of the things said to be going on in Bodija, in Oyo State, and we also had disturbing motions on Plateau State in places like Mango, Bokos, Barakin Ladi communities in Plateau, and on some other places. And then very close to us We also heard about the infiltration of the Federal Capital Territory by some of the kidnappers and bandits, particularly in places like Kubwa and Buari, Kubwa, and others. And we had unconfirmed reports that they also have cells and they are congregating, and then some of the informants met some of our people and even mentioned the areas where they are congregating and all that. We've also had the efforts of security chiefs and security agencies to attempt to root them out. But the reports kept coming in torrents and became very worrisome to this distinguished Senate, and therefore various resolutions were arrived at, one of which was to invite the security chiefs to have interaction with us to brief us on the efforts being made to curb this resurgence, and at the same time give us the opportunity to also make our suggestions for the betterment of the country. So please, whilst we welcome you, we want you to know that it is not because of the fact that we are not passing the buck. We are not blaming any of you for anything. We believe you are doing your best. We want to hear from you and also make contributions on how we can improve the situation. And so we welcome you, but we are not complete. We've noted, we received apology from the National Security Advisor that is in a bilateral discussion with the representatives of security chiefs from United Kingdom, or in a seminar or so. And so this is where we are. So whilst we welcome you, we believe that the team is not yet complete. So I don't know whether the Senate will want to proceed, but my personal opinion will be that we would like to have also with you in attendance the Chief of Defense Staff. Is it the view of the Senate? We would like also to have the National Security Advisor in attendance. Is that the view of the Senate? We would like to also have the Minister of Defense in attendance. Is that the view of the Senate? We would like also to have the Minister of State Defense in attendance. Will that be the view of the Senate? We will also want the Minister of Police Affairs to be in attendance. Is that the view of the Senate? We would like to have the Minister of State Police Affairs in attendance. Is that the view of the Senate? In addition, we believe strongly that we should also have the Director General of NIA in attendance. Is that the view of the Senate? So, and we also think, in case there are financial issues involved, that we should have the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Is that the view of the Senate? Yes. Then, so I want to, on behalf of my colleagues, thank you for your presence and say that the clerk of the Senate distinguished colleagues, somebody has also mentioned that it will also be a good idea for us to have a holistic resolution and interaction, to have the Minister of Interior in attendance. Is that the view of the Senate? So the clerk of the Senate has directed accordingly that you further invite the National Security Advisor, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of State Defense, the Minister of Police Affairs, the Minister of State Police Affairs, the Chief of Defense Staff, National Security Advisor, of course, the DGNIA, Minister of Interior, Minister of Finance, and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, in addition to the service chiefs who have honored the invitation of the Senate. It's important to know that we represent the Nigerian people, and we can only do the will of the Nigerian people. And our job is to complement the efforts of the executive, and then also to assist the executive to succeed. Because if the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not succeed, it means that we have all failed. It means that Nigeria has failed. So what we are doing is definitely in the interest of the people. You identified in your discussions 3 key issues. So I'm wondering whether there will be need to have the CBN governor in attendance. No. Okay. So the Senate has rejected that. So the issues identified, principally security, is the most important issue that have been identified. And the Senate is also of the view that the FCT is under threat, and in addition to other parts of the country. So you are welcome, but at the same time, we want to thank you for coming. And therefore, this interactive session, the Deputy Senate President, if the Senate will agree with me, in view of the fact that the people we have mentioned are not here, the personnel we have mentioned are not here, and we need their presence to have a holistic and complete discussion on the security situation in the country. So is it the view of the Senate that this be moved to Tuesday, the 13th day of February 2023? Those in support say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So this security briefing is therefore adjourned to the 13th day of February 2024 at 11 a.m. prompt.
And that's the program for today. Many thanks for watching, and please join us again Friday next week at 8 p.m. Also watch all editions of The Maze on ASO Radio and Television YouTube channel. Like our page and please subscribe. I am Rosemary UKOKO-TEGA.